was a smooth-talking law student who charmed his victims before turning into their worst nightmare. The other, a sadistic couple who lured children onto the desolate moors of northern England, never to be seen again, to continents, to terrifying legacies, but who committed the most haunting crimes of the 20th century. Welcome back to the Crime Stream, where we explore the darkest corners of true crime history. In today's deep dive, we're pitting two of the most infamous serial murder cases head-to-head. Ted Bundy, America's so-called charming killer, vs. Ian Brady and Myra Hindley, the Moors murderers, a twisted British couple who killed for pleasure. But this isn't just a shock value showdown. We're exploring the psychology behind their crimes, the societal reactions in the US, vs. how justice really played out for each of them. Did you know Ted Bundy confessed to 30 murders? But experts now estimate the real number could be over 100. Source: FBI Archives and author Ann Rule's best-selling book, The Stranger Beside Me. Meanwhile, Brady and Hindley killed at least 5 children between 1963 and 1965, burying them on Saddleworth Moor. But here's the chilling twist. 1. Victim's body, Keith Bennett, was never found even 60 years later. So what happens when you compare Bundy's slick, manipulative narcissism to Brady and Hindley's calculated, sadistic abuse of children? Bundy interrupted his own trial to defend himself in front of his victims, families, and even got married in court. Brady and Hindley recorded one of their victims begging for their life and played it during a sickening court trial. The media labeled Bundy the handsome killer. In the UK, Myra Hindley was once called the most hated woman in Britain. These crimes didn't just shock families, they shattered entire nations. In America, Bundy's televised trial was a media circus, one of the first in US history. In the UK, what made these killers what they were? Nature, nurture, or something darker? Before we jump into the full psychological profiles and court drama, we want to hear from you. Do you think Ted Bundy's intelligence made him more dangerous? Or does the sadism of Brady and Hindley put them in a darker league? Your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It helps the Crime Stream grow and deliver deeper crime stories. Every week, we'll explore Bundy's double life, from law school and politics to necrophilia and nationwide murder sprees. Then, we'll examine Ian Brady's obsession with Hitler and Myra Hindley's tragic transformation from schoolgirl to sadistic accomplice. According to a 2023 forensic psychology study from the University of Cambridge, Brady showed classic psychopathy with sadistic sexual preferences, while Bundy scored 39 out of 40 on the hair psychopathy checklist, and yet one operated alone. The other fed off a toxic duo dynamic. So, buckle up, because this is more than a serial killer case study. It's a look at two cultural nightmares cross two nations, generations, and criminal legacies. Let's begin. He was attractive, intelligent, educated. He didn't look like a killer. That's exactly why he got away with it. For years. In the 1970s, as the world was just beginning to understand the term serial killer, one man slipped through the cracks. He crossed state lines, changed identities, escaped prison, killed again, and smiled for the cameras while doing it. This is not just the story of Ted Bundy. It's the story of how evil can hide in plain sight, and how America's justice system time and again let him slip through its fingers. Title screen fades in. The Ted Bundy Murders, America's charming monster, presented by the crime stream Ted Bundy, was born Theodore Robert Cowell on November 24, 1946, in Burlington, Vermont. His mother, Eleanor Louise Cowell, was unmarried in an unacceptable situation at the time, so Ted was raised by his grandparents, believing his mother was his sister. Bundy would later say, "Greater than I just didn't feel like I belonged." His grandfather was reportedly violent. Bundy witnessed animal abuse, domestic violence, and was deeply insecure about his origins. Greater than psychiatrist Dr. Dorothy Otno Lewis later described Bundy as a classic psychopath with no capacity for empathy. As a teen in Tacoma, Washington, he was considered a loner, but intelligent, a scholarship student at the University of Washington. He studied psychology while secretly watching violent pornography and obsessing over true crime. In the early 1970s, something snapped. In January 1974, Linda N. Healy, a student and local broadcaster, disappeared from her basement room in Seattle. Blood on the bed, and her nightgown carefully folded a signature that would become Bundy's calling card. Between January and July, 6 women went missing from Washington alone. Donna, Gail, Mansoon Susan, Rencourt Roberta, Kathleen, Parks Brenda, Balger Jan, Hawkins. Many were brunettes, parted their hair in the middle, and resembled Bundy's ex-girlfriend, Stephanie Brooks, who had once broken his heart. Bundy often wore a sling or fake cast to appear injured, luring women to help him carry books or load items into his Volkswagen. Beetleware, they were overpowered. Greater than Bundy later confessed that by mid-1974, he was abducting and killing a woman about every month. July 14, 1974. 2 women, Janice OTT and Denise Nasland, vanish in broad daylight from Lake Sammamish State Park, witnessed talking to a man named Ted with a sling and a VW bug. For the first time, police had a name. Sketches were circulated. Bundy's coworkers, ex-girlfriend, and even a professor reported him to police. But he didn't have a criminal record, so nothing stuck by this time. Bundy had already moved on to Utah and Colorado. More young women vanished. Melissa Smith, 17 Laura Aim, 17 Nancy Wilcox. 16 Bundy was now killing with increasing frequency, often returning to the bodies to perform sexual acts. Greater than possession was important to me. Bundy admitted in his final death row interviews. Not just the act of killing, but owning them forever. He was finally caught in August 1975 when police stopped his suspicious vehicle. Inside, ski mask, handcuffs, crowbar, and trash bags a rape kit. Essentially, Carol Durange, woman who had escaped Bundy's abduction attempt, identified him in a lineup. Bundy was charged and sentenced to prison in Utah. But the story was far from over. Bundy was transferred to Colorado to face murder charges. But in June 1977, during a court hearing, he asked to use the library. No guard watched him. He jumped out a second-story window and vanished for 6 days. He was caught again. But in December, he escaped again, this time through a hole in his cell ceiling. He lost 30 pounds to fit through. For weeks, he traveled undetected, eventually reaching Tallahassee, Florida, in the early morning hours of January 15, 1978. Bundy entered Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University. He beat Lisa Levy and Margaret Bowman to death, and brutally assaulted 2 others who barely survived. Just a month later, he abducted 12-year-old Kimberly Leach, whose body was found in a pig shed 50 miles away. This was no longer just a killer. This was rage unleashed. He was finally arrested in Pensacola, Florida, after a routine traffic stop. In his car, stolen IDs, gloves, and stolen license plates. The trial was the first ever televised in U.S. history. Bundy, ever the narcissist, represented himself in court cross-examining witnesses, objecting dramatically, and often grandstanding for the cameras. But the evidence was clear. Bite marks on Lisa Levy matched his dental records, eyewitnesses, fibers, hair, and blood traces. He was found guilty on all counts and sentenced to death 3 times. Bundy spent 9 years on death row, marrying his girlfriend, Carol Ann Boone, during trial, and even fathering a child while in prison. In his final interviews, Bundy tried to shift blame to porn, to violent media. He confessed to 30 murders, but the real number could be as high as 100 plus. On January 24, 1989, Crowds gathered outside Florida State Prison, cheering as Bundy was executed in the electric chair. They held signs, "Fry Bundy, Toasted Ted." Bundy forever changed how we view serial killers. He was educated and handsome, defying the stereotype of a monster. He manipulated not just victims, but lawyers, judges, the media, and the public. His case helped shape the FBI's behavioral analysis unit, BAL profiling techniques, Netflix's Bundy tapes, books like The Stranger Beside Me, and films starring actors like Zac Efron have kept his story alive, but critics warn against glamorizing him as profiler. John Douglas said, "Greater than Bundy was pure evil. Not insane, just evil. Ted Bundy is dead, but his shadow lives on." His case revealed the flaws in our justice system, the dangers of charisma, and the terrifying fact that some monsters walk among us unnoticed. He wasn't a genius. He wasn't a mastermind. He was a manipulator, a predator, a killer. And in the end, he got what he deserved. The wind howls across Saddleworth Moor, a desolate place of fog, silence, and shadows. But beneath its soil lies a story so horrific it's seared into British memory forever. This isn't just a story of murder. This is about control, obsession, and a love story turned into a nightmare. A couple who photographed their crimes, who recorded the screams, and who buried innocence beneath miles of peat and heather, born in Glasgow. In 1938, Ian Brady had a troubled childhood, neglected, fostered, and frequently violent. He was a loner with dark fantasies. By his teenage years, he was reading Nietzsche, Marquis de Sade, and Mein Kampf. He obsessed over Nazi power and sadistic domination. Myra Hindley, by contrast, was a seemingly ordinary girl from Gorton, Manchester, known for her bleach blonde hair and love of her dog. She lived a quiet life till she met Brady. 1961. Millward's merchandising company. Brady was a clerk, Hindley a typist. Their first conversations were brief and intense. He lent her books on Nazi Germany. She bleached her hair because he liked Aryan looks. Over months, he groomed her. Emotionally and ideologically, she became his willing accomplice. By love, loyalty, or fear, they began plotting the unthinkable. Their first victim was 16-year-old Pauline Red. Lured by Hindley on the pretext of helping find a glove, Brady waited on the moor. Pauline was raped and murdered. Her body was buried in a shallow grave, one that would remain hidden for 24 years. Next came John Kilbride. 12. He disappeared after going out to buy a bottle of pop. Hindley and Brady offered him a lift. His body was found on the moorhands tide. Sexual abuse evident. By 1964, parents across Manchester were terrified. Children vanished in daylight. Police were overwhelmed. The killers remained invisible. They kidnapped Keith Bennett next. His mother, Winnie Johnson, never stopped searching. He was 12 then. Leslie Ann, Downey years old. She was abducted from a fun fair. Warning: sensitive content ahead. They stripped her, tied her up, and recorded a 13-minute audio tape of her final moments. On it, Hindley's voice can be heard. "Shut up, Leslie. Stop screaming." The tape was never made public. Jurors at the trial later said it haunted them for life. 17. Lured to their home with the promise of drinksy. Was killed with an axe in front of a witness. That mistake would bring it all crashing down. Brady asked Hindley's brother, David Smith, to witness Edward Evans' killing. But Smith fled and phoned police. When officers arrived at Wardlebrook Avenue, they found bloodstains and a grisly scene. They discovered a left luggage ticket hidden in a prayer book. It led them to a locker at Manchester Central Station. Side photos of the victim's audio tape of Leslie Ann, a diary of murder plans, and Myra posing with her dog, standing above shallow graves on the moor. Police press conference audio clip. Brady and Hindley have been arrested in connection with multiple child disappearances. Source: The Guardian, 1966. In 1966, the trial began. It lasted 14 days. The nation watched in horror. Evidence included photographs of grave markers, the audio recording of Leslie's final moments, David Smith's chilling eyewitness testimony. Brady showed no emotion. Hindley wept sometimes, but jurors weren't convinced by her tears. Brady was convicted of 3 murders. Hindley, 2. Both received life sentences. Capital punishment had been abolished just 18 months prior. In prison, Brady remained defiant. He requested books on Hitler, refused visits, called himself a sadist, not a psychopath. He later admitted to 5 murders, but suggested there may be more. Hindley claimed she was manipulated. She converted to Catholicism. Her supporters, including some prominent figures, tried to secure parole. Every attempt was denied. The public wouldn't allow it. In 1987, under police pressure, they helped locate Pauline Reed's body. Keith Bennett, however, was never found. Brady refused to help, taunting the boy's grieving mother until her death in 2012. He said, "It's my last bit of power." Brady died in 2017, age 79. Hindley died in 2002. The Moors. Murders weren't just crimes. They were a cultural earthquake. UK child protection laws were reformed. Public attitudes to parole and media coverage of killers changed. The term Moors murderers became synonymous with evil. Still today, Saddleworth Moor is searched regularly for Keith Bennett, volunteers, cadaver dogs, drones, but he's never been found. Winnie Johnson's final plea to Brady, just tell me where Keith is. I want to give my son a proper grave. He never answered. We often ask, how could this happen? How could one person manipulate another into committing evil? How could a country that had just abolished the death penalty watch in horror, wondering if mercy was a mistake? In the end, the names of the murderers are infamous, but we say the victims' names louder. Pauline Red, John Kilbride, Keith Bennett, Leslie Ann Downey, Edward Evans. Their memory lives on. Their stories must be told, and the horror of what happened must never be forgotten. 2 cases, 2 countries, but the same haunting truth. Evil doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes it wears a suit or a school uniform and walks right beside us in broad daylight. So now we ask you, which case do you think had the greater impact on society, Bundy's cross-country or Brady and Hindley's calculated childhood horrors? Let us know in the comments. Your voice drives the conversation. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you want more deep dive true crime stories from both sides of the Atlantic. This is the Crime Stream, where we don't just tell the story, we drag it into the light. Stay curious, stay safe, and until next time, don't trust the smile.